He done the X.
We'll begin with the pledge and the prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you again for allowing us to be in this setting. Thank you for our school district. Thank you for all that's involved, faculty and staff. Lord, all of our means and everything to deal with our school system. And Lord, you've richly blessed us, and we want to thank you for that. We want to thank you most of all for our students. What a blessing and what an encouragement they are, and they always are. Lord, we ask you that you'd be at this meeting, everything that's said and done, it'd bring honor and glory to your name. And Lord, we do thank you once again for loving us. We do love you. We ask all of these things in your precious holy name. Amen.
Amen. I call the meeting to order, 5:05. First item is the approval of the agenda.
Cody, I had to think of your name.
That's fine.
I'm sorry. We need to add a D to action in pencil, pending our conversation in closed session. Okay?
Okay. With the potential addition of an item D in action, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands. Passes. Do we have the approval of the consent agenda?
We've added one name to the personnel. I tried to notify you all of that today. And if you need any more information about that, I'd be pleased to give it to you in closed session. But that would be the only addition.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands. Passes. Do we have any public comment?
Would somebody step out there and see if we have any public comment, please? Joanne is not well, and she texted while we were in the meeting downstairs and said she's not going to make it. So we'll just function without her for now, okay?
Do they have any public comment?
That would be probably some of the best public comment we've ever had right there.
I do believe, given that the addition of the potential action item D, that we should go into a closed session for that discussion. Do I have a motion for a closed session?
I make motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11 under subsection A1 and 5 to prevent the disclosure of privileged or confidential information.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's approved. We'll go into closed session briefly. Thank you. Closed session. Next item on the agenda is discussion, beginning with personnel.
I think that we've discussed all the personnel matters that we need to,
Okay.
in my opinion. And the next on the agenda would be Michelle Herron talking about the beverage bid.
Ed?
Good evening. As you are well aware, I am the representative for the Far West Co-op this year. And along with the food bid that I've already got approved, I'm having to do the beverage bid for the co-op. And I'm here tonight to ask you to approve that Coca-Cola gets the bid this year. They are the only one that actually sent me a bid. RC Cola did not respond, and Pepsi does not have the products that qualify for our smart snack regulations. So I ask that you approve the Coca-Cola bid. For all the co-op, it's right at $85,000.
Michelle, what are the, you may have said it and I missed it, what are the beverages that were going to come through that?
We will get water, we get juices. This is everything that we sell a la carte at the high school. There's water, juices, we have vitamin water, we have Powerade, and sodas, zero sodas.
And none of those beverages are what would be found in the drink machines that we see in different places, correct?
They are not. I do not have access to those machines. Those are controlled by the schools.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, those are under the Pepsi contract, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, which we have a separate contract with, and I don't know.
Concessions, I guess.
Yeah, and concessions, and I don't know how far we are into that contract at this point. I don't know how many years, but it wouldn't surprise me if we'd be looking at rebidding that in the not too distant future as well. Okay.
This contract will be good for this year with the option to roll it for the next 5 years in 1 year increments.
Okay. Will there be a pay increase too, I guess, that goes along with that percentage increase?
They can.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to agree upon.
Yeah.
Any questions for Michelle? Thank you.
Thank you.
Every year, we're supposed to have an update on our alternative program status, and Mr. Turner has been asking to come and to speak to you. So you have been allotted 5 minutes, Mike. Okay?
If you have to talk so much downstairs, we'll let you go a little longer.
I appreciate it. Let me take my time back. All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and to talk to you guys. Before we get started, I want to shout out to all my teachers and staff that I have over there. We've got a phenomenal staff. If you don't know them, some of them from out of town, you need to swing by and check them out and come into their classrooms and see what they do. They do a great job building relationships with our students, and that's one of the things that has helped us be successful this year, I believe. strongly in building relationships. In fact, that's part of one of our mission statements is, we build positive relationships while focusing on preparing students for their post-secondary goals. So what I'd just like to do is share with you some data that I have, answer any questions that you guys may have about our program, kind of what we're going to do in the future moving forward after we reviewed the data and see what we've done. But I wanted to first start off by telling you kind of the process of enrollment when a student comes to me so that everybody's kind of understands that process. It's real simple. Once they meet the expectation of the high school, where they're in their Tier 2, Tier 3 process within their MTSS, which means they've met the qualifications to come over, they get recommended to be placed at Swain Academy. And once they do that, I meet with every student, every parent before they're allowed to start with me. We have a sit-down meeting, and we go over rules, policies, procedures, protocols. I show them the handbook. We go over all the rules, everything in there. We kind of tell them, hey, we're a separate school, absolutely separate from the high school. We have our own stuff. We have our own teachers. We have our own schedule. We do our own graduation. All of that stuff is explained to all the parents upon enrollment before they're allowed to start. They actually, in your packet there, you'll have the signature stuff that I require, which is a signature of the handbook, as well as a recognition of a year-long good field trip thing for the stuff that we do on Fridays. During that meeting, we develop what's called a personal education plan for every student. That's what this little colorful document is. I had to shrink it down. It's pretty big. Every student at our school has a personal educational plan, and that's what we do when we sit down with the parent and guardians and with the student upon enrollment into Swain Academy. Is we say, what do you want? How can we help you get there? And so the conversations may vary. It may say, hey, I want to come back to the high school. That's my goal. I want to get there. Okay, these are the goals that we need to help you with and help you achieve so that at the end of the semester you can transition back to the high school. Some of them, I just want to graduate. I want to get done with school. I want to move on to the next stage. Some of them want to get certifications. Some of them want a 2-year institution. Some of them want 4-year institutions. And so we sit down with every student, parent, and guardian before they leave and before they're allowed to start and go over those plans with them. They're all part of the process. The high school does have some standardized goals that they meet if they're going to transition back there. And then we come up with individual goals and stuff for the students that are wanting something different. And so we figure out what we can do and how we can help them. That's then sent to all my teachers. The teachers are aware of each student's kind of goals, what they want to do, and so that they can look at their curriculum and make sure that we are presenting the curriculum in a manner in which the students will see the value in what we're trying to teach them. The standards are the same. Whether you're at the high school or you're at Swain Academy, the standards doesn't change. It's how we present those standards in a manner in which a student can grasp the content that changes. And so that's what I charge my teachers with, is that we are going to prepare them with the same exact standards the state of North Carolina requires for all students to get a credit for that class, but the manner in which we may approach it may be different than a traditional lecture-based classroom. Figure out what makes your kids want to be there, and let's do that. Let's see if we can take our curriculum and make it applicable to them so that they see the value in the curriculum, which then in turn should see success in the classroom, growth in the classroom, proficiencies on scores, as well as, attendance, and hopefully meeting their goals. And so that's kind of what we do. We take this PEP, we meet with students every week to go over their goals. Whether you met your goal this week, you haven't met your goal. We do that every week because on Friday, if you haven't met your academic attendance or behavior goal, you don't get to do the activity that we do on Friday. We help you get caught up, whether it's academic, whether it's attendance-wise, or whether it's a discipline issue. We try to serve all those days on Friday. So a traditional week for us would look like Monday through Thursday's direct instruction with our teachers. And then on Friday, we try to provide some kind of employment career readiness program or something that we do to help them align with their post-secondary goals. And we went to a ton of different places. We went to Western this past year, went to Southwestern. We did, Miss Yana let us work at El Dulce there. I can't even say it right. So they actually worked in the coffee shop. We took them to Ingalls. They went through and did a price shopping. They had to do a week's worth of budget of food and then figured out how to shop. And then they took them around in Ingalls and showed them each one of the jobs that are available at Ingalls. We went to Lowe's and did the same thing. They had 3 rooms that they had to decorate with, carpet. So they're doing square footage. They did kitchen where they had to pick out appliances and figure out how all that works. Had a bedroom. So we went to Walmart too to pick out some furniture, and they had to stay within a budget of what their desired career would be. So if I wanted to be an electrician at $80,000, let's say that's what it was, that's kind of the monthly salary that they had to base what they built their stuff on. We went to the village, Okalani Village, I always say that wrong too. And so we've took them to a lot of different places to provide them with opportunities within the community to get job and work experience. On the days that we stay back, we try to do a career readiness program for them. So we do a lot of application, resume building. We also do career days and stuff like that within our school. So sometimes they stay back and we work on that. On a week where we don't have a full week, they don't go. It's a direct instruction. You always get 4 days of instruction. So Monday's a holiday. They know Tuesday through Friday's direct instruction. So we always do 4 days of direct instructions. So sometimes they will lose out on that thing on Friday. Every 2 weeks, we go over their PEPs as well and make sure that they want to continue on the same goal, and we reach out to parents. That's one of the things that our school does extremely well. We served 72 students total this year, in and out, so not at one time, but 72 students. We graduated 16, which is 22% of our population. 9 transferred to another school. That's mainly because of the Hawthorne and temporary placements of foster and stuff. The kids will transition once their time is done. 8 withdrew because of 10 consecutive absences. That's a dropout. So we needed to look at that. 13 transitioned back to the high school. That's 18% of our population. 17% of our population met the goals to transition back to the high school and said, no, I don't want to go. I feel like this is a place for me. So we had about a 17% of our population that wanted to stay. 13 didn't meet their goals, and then if you kind of add that up, we had about a 65% rate of success of kids meeting their goals, whether it is to transition to the high school, whether it is to graduate, or whether it's to stay with us. And so that's kind of what we looked at. I based that a lot on my teachers building relationships and the way that they do, because our kids traditionally that come to us have struggled in some capacity at school, whether it be academics, attendance, or behavior. That's how you get placed out there. You're not tracking where you need to academically, behaviorally, or attendance-wise. If you look at the success academically we had, we kind of broke it down for you guys. We had about 292 total. This is individual classes. 67 of the classes were online, which is only about 23% of our classes that we offered this year were online. And those are because I don't have a teacher, an elective-based teacher, or I have one science teacher. So if they're teaching biology but need a physical science, that's the only way I can get it done right now. So you will have some. I try to limit the online capacity, and you'll see in the data why. If you look at our failure rate, we had about a 90% pass rate in our classes. So total for the school-wise, we had about a 90% pass rate. We had 15 failures in our online class. So that's 51% of our failures came from online, even though it's only 22%, 23% of what we offered. So what that tells me is our online does not work for our students. And we knew that going in. That was one of the big things, the reasons why we developed and opened this school is in the past, our alternative program was all online. And so we saw a lot of failures, a lot of repeating. And so this is just, for me, further indication that our students, my particular population in general, online is not the best avenue to provide them with an education. We only had 14 failures in person. The great stat for the high school as well as for us is we graduated 16 out of 16 possible graduates. So we had 16 eligible graduates that could graduate, and we graduated 100%. And so part of that thing is you have to realize that these seniors came to us not on track to graduate. That's why they got to us. So what I look at, when I look at the number and I look at our mission and I look at the value of our school, we saved 16 kids towards graduation. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't have done it in their current situation and anything like that, but I know that we had 16 eligible and we got 16 through. So I think that's a great testimony to what our school was able to do. If you look at our discipline data, I think this is kind of everywhere. So we had 120 total days of ISS and OSS. That's total throughout the semester, or throughout the whole year. 78% of our ISS and OSS days came from vaping. So we had 94 out of our 120 days of suspension came from people vaping. We have one hallway. So it's not hard to catch you either. So, literally, I can yell out of my office, "I'm coming," and they're like, because we got the vape sensors in the bathroom. So we do a really good job of tracking that and being able to address that. But the majority of our incidents and discipline came from vaping, and a lot of them came from the 10-day THC vapes. I had a couple students had multiple violations of that. So you're looking at 20, 30 days of out-of-school suspension potentially for bringing a THC vape on campus and using it, or at least having it in your possession. Had one fight the entire year, and then we had 20 days of ISS, OSS because of insubordination. That can range from, this is the 5th time I told you not to sleep in a class, to being disrespectful to a teacher or something like that. And our students know that, as much energy and effort our teachers put into it, we're not going to really tolerate any kind of disrespect to them because they are doing everything that they can to help those students. Attendance is an issue that I think we need to kind of look at as well. We had an 80% attendance rate, which is not very good, I don't think, for what we can be. There's a little data. The way the state calculates unexcused absences, they actually include excused absences in your your truancy and your chronically absent. So even though the law legally says this is a legal and viable reason to miss school, it still counts as your truancy thing, and it counts in your chronic absenteeism. So if you take the excused absences out, we're actually about at an 86% attendance rate, which is still not where I'd like it to be. But roughly, you're looking at 90, I think somewhere like that in some of the schools in our area, and on the high end on some of that too. So there's opportunity for growth there. One of the things that we're going to do better this year, attendance is tough to do. It's tough to manage because a lot of this has to do with getting a kid to school. We have sometimes no control over that. But I do think we can do a better job of addressing the root reason why we are not attending. And so we've developed some, and I've included them in there, some protocols that we can talk to kids and figure out the reasons of the why. Why are you not coming? Is it because you don't want to come to school because the curriculum is not for you? Is it because you're getting bullied? Or is it because, what's the real reason? Something happening at the house, so that we can better allocate our resources to target the root of the absenteeism, because that's the only thing that we can help control. And so hopefully going through the process this year, that's one of the steps that we're going to try to do to increase our attendance rate. Our MRA data, which is the kind of the leader in me stuff, it has to do with the culture of your school. It talks about leadership, culture, and academics. We actually scored at the very first time. We did 2. We did a pre and a post. The state didn't do the school climate survey this year. I have no data to kind of reflect what our climate is. So we did one at the beginning and then did one at the end. We showed growth in every area. And actually, the first one we started off, if you're in the 80, in that 80 range, I think you're effective, is the word that Leader in Me uses. And we actually showed growth in each one of those areas. We went from an 80 overall to an 84 from the beginning to the end. Academics was the biggest area of growth. I think we had a 75 originally, and it bumped up to an 83 as our teachers were getting comfortable with the thought and the process of taking that curriculum and making it something that the kids can see the value in, and making it applicable based on what they want to do, so that they can get the content that they need and still have success. So overall, the climate was pretty good based off what we had. One thing I'm really proud of, I over-communicate with the reason why a kid is not successful is not a reason based that we should, because we haven't communicated with the parent to give them an opportunity to help us, or communicate with the student what's going on and what's the matter. So out of 72 students, we actually made 1,480 contacts throughout the school year. We had 271 teacher contacts, that is contacting parents. We had 496 office contacts, that's where we go over your PEP and we call home and let you know you're on track, you're not on track, what can we do to help? And then we had about 713 support contacts, that's through guidance counseling. And some of those are individual with the students when we do our check-ins. If we get a student that's struggling, we may assign somebody in the building to check in with that person. I need you to check in to see what they're doing on math, or I need you to check in why they're not here, or see, we've seen an uptick in the escalation in behavior. So, 1,480 roughly. We document every contact that we have in Infinite Campus, so you can pull it and reference it. So when a parent comes in and says, I really didn't know about this, you can pull up and say, I called you 17 times and we've had this conversation, So it's just, we document. I don't want any failure to be a result of a lack of communication that we've had on our end. That's something that's easily controllable and doable. And so we over-communicate, if anything. Within your packet, I just gave you documentation of all the stuff that I've done, talked about just briefly throughout there. And so you can reference it later because it's a lot of information kind of there. Looking forward to next year, some of the areas that we're looking to improve is one of our electives. I'd like the opportunity to develop electives for our students so that we do not necessarily, for the students that do not wish to go back to the high school, that we can provide them with electives that they need and are beneficial for their post-secondary goals. If you think about it, in 2 years from now, you're going to have students that have never stepped foot on Swain County in that school and will graduate as a Swain Academy student and never been in the high school. We do a 22 track with all of our students, which means in 3 years, if you come and do what you need to, you can actually be graduated in 22 credits, which is 3 years. So I've got some kids that have told me, I'm never leaving you. Some of them, they'll never leave me because they don't want to leave. And then some of them, will never leave because they may never met their goals. And so providing them an opportunity to have effective elective courses that will help them in their post-secondary desires is kind of what we're looking at to do. We're also looking at developing we're calling it the Mountain Guides program. Is one of our Tier 3 supports for our students. So once they reach to our Tier 3 where they're in trouble of or at risk of not meeting their academic, behavioral, and attendance goals, we have some people that can check in on them that are kind of outside people that aren't necessarily school system people that we're going to run through all you guys. So we'll get you all this information before we do any of it. So that you guys can see it. I have a rough draft of kind of what we're looking at as well, but it provides that student just another person to check in with. One of the issues that you have at an alternative school with no extracurricular activities is you've got to find something that they buy themselves into. And we don't have sports, we don't have band, we don't have yearbook, we don't have those things. So we have to have our students buy into a person, someone there. So that they know that that person is there for them, that cares about them, that loves them, that will support them, and that may get them out of bed to get there. That may get them through that senior year. That may get them to do what we need them to do. So I will provide that information to you too, but we're kind of looking at, it's kind of like a big brother, big sister program-ish type thing that we run through our school, that those teachers or those community members would come in and do a club for us once a month so the kids get to experience some hands-on stuff. Heath Hyatt came in and did a phenomenal job doing hiking, and he showed them. I think he actually started a fire in the parking lot because he was showing them with the. I don't know if y'all supposed to know that, but so he was doing that. But the kids loved it. His hands-on, and so and he could come in and do a club like that, and then when a kid gets to a Tier 3 system for us, he can be the one that just steps in and says, hey, what's going on? Because sometimes they don't want to open up to school staff. And so it just gives another avenue, another person for them to look at and to be invested in. So that's kind of what we did this year data-wise. So I can answer any questions, concerns that you guys may have about Swain Academy.
How well did you communicate with the students and parents about the event of graduation?
We did a ton. One, I think our graduation was awesome. I think it was it reminded me of the COVID graduation a little bit because we can take the time to make it individual for our students. So we can take that time because we don't have the 100 kids that are coming through. Every student knows where they are in graduation. As you can see, as part of that PEP form, it shows you their blueprint. It shows you how many classes they need. So we try to go over with the student, look, you got 4 more classes and this is what's going to happen. If you want to transition back to the high school, I need you to meet these goals, and then we're going to send you back. If not, you would remain with us and graduate with us. And so we've communicated. We started that, 2-3 months. We were reaching out. Our plans did change a little bit. Originally, we had one idea because the majority of the kids that we talked to said they didn't want to do a formal graduation, that they would rather do their own celebration at their house or whatever, and that we would come and present that diploma. And then we had a few that didn't want to do that, so then we made it, and it grew. Originally, we had 4 kids that were graduates, and then it grew to about 16 that were graduates. And so we communicate, like I said, and we've got all the contact logs that we do, we over-communicate, so usually that's not an issue for us.
Yeah, I thought it was very much a success.
I loved it. When the best part, when you played those videos for them that we recorded from people that meant something to them, to see their faces, I mean, you got kids that, they start bawling on you, and you wouldn't think I'm weird. And so sometimes I don't make connections like that. And so to see that coach that we got to say something meant that much to them, their mom, to me, that was the best part.
And when they graduate, I know that I saw this in the community recently, it's not a GED equivalent
Nope.
or anything like that, it's a high school.
It's a high school diploma. That's one of the benefits of doing our own school. I think a couple of the benefits of having our own school, one, when you do that, you get an allocation of teacher positions that we didn't have without the school. Because you can say, we've had this, so we need these resources. The other thing, it's exactly the same high school diploma as Swain County High School, as Robbinsville, as Cherokee, is any other high school, because we have our own LEA. And so it's exactly the same as every other high school diploma out there. When you go to, colleges, they're not going to necessarily look at the diploma anyway. They look at what credits you got to get that diploma. Jobs are going to say, do you have a high school diploma? It is actually exactly the same.
Other questions?
I appreciate your
Great,
time.
thank you.
Is that 5 minutes? That was not 5 minutes, I'm just saying.
I know, that was more bad. Just so you have to, this is a rough draft of what we're doing.
Thank you. You ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a report on athletic budget projections for 25-26. Scotty has been working very diligently to find the numbers, to put the numbers in a format that are usable, and to create a higher level of expectation. And I believe that he has done all that, and I believe that you will see that in what he tells you right now. Don't hesitate to ask him questions. And we are improving, which is what I promised you that we would do. Okay? Scotty?
You should have a packet. If I don't have one, we can get a copy of it. First off, if you look at the first part of it, Ms. Ginger Parsons has been tremendous as far as working with us, getting information to be able to help us cipher through some things, kind of build a base of what we want to try to do moving forward. With that, there was an interscholastic survey that was done that's kind of based on the last 5 years. That's more of a general funding thing, as far as there's not a lot of itemized reports in there as far as breakdown of the different sports. Off that, we've kind of built what we would, a budget for as far as next year goes. And we put at the top, if you look at the second section of it, after the interscholastic survey, put at the top, there's some major areas of concern for us moving forward from costs across the board. Obviously, as you look down through there, increased cost of officials, and over the years, those things keep going up about $1,500 to $2,000 a year. So that's something that we know is an issue. Increased cost of equipment and uniform stuff. We learned recently, probably back in early June, that there's the tariffs that are, significantly impacting a lot of goods. For instance, example, one basketball was $98 before June 1st. I think after August 1st, it's going to be about $140, and that's just for one of them. So those things add up over time for us, and it's definitely a concern. Concession stand products, we've talked about looking at what products are selling for us, which ones can we make the most profit of moving forward to make that a bigger thing for us. And if you look at in the first part of those interscholastic surveys, we're trending a little bit as far as gate receipts goes, which means our attendance has been wavering a little bit, so we've not had as much influence as far as attendance goes. And then obviously increased costs and food and travel expenses, especially when you talk about the playoff and regional and those things. It does cost us a lot for, wrestling example is it's a 3-time event. You got individuals, so it's be able to put them up there for 2 or 3 days. It does cost a lot of stuff. Any potential decrease in banner sponsorship and sports season pass program. So we've got goals set as far as what we want them to get to as far as the point of bringing in revenue. We just don't want to, we don't want to overflood the businesses here that help us out and support us, but we want to be able to be profitable with that as well. This last part is not at all a negative. If you got teams winning state championships, that's a big thing, but trying to recur ring funding has been an issue for us as far as right now we have a bill that's pretty outstanding that we've got to figure out a way to, over the next months, to figure out a way to pay that. So that's been something that we'll work on as well. Operational needs, if you look at that part of it, estimated anywhere from 68 to 70,000. That's just from a general overall standpoint. So we know that huddle's going to cost us around $11,000 a year to run. Field paint's $5,700 to $6,000. So those things add up. And if you look at the bottom of that, half of our big time estimated total is official fees. So if you're thinking we're spending $70,000 and $35,000 of it's going to officials, then half of our entire operational needs is something that hurts us a little bit. And then if you look down there, there's a operational as far as sport specific. Now we've budgeted in there, again, high estimates for these teams. For instance, we know with football it's going to cost us X amount for reconditioning, equipment, any type of new equipment for there. And if you look at like the fall sports, currently we've partnered with Dwight Winchester and Catamount Travel Center. So that's one less thing we have to worry about as far as equipment on their aspect of it. But that kind of goes across the board. And if you add all those together, you're looking anywhere from another $57,000 to $60,000 high budgeting if you break it down, what it costs us per team for as far as balls, equipment, uniforms, stuff like that.
Scotty, do you expect that to be 25, 26 cost, or is that a good ballpark average?
I think that's a good ballpark average. I mean, overall, and that's just trying to find as much data as we could based off of what it costs, what we think the projection is going to be. The only thing that's concerning really for us is the equipment part of it, because we don't know. I mean, we have an idea of what it's going to cost us from a uniform and a ball standpoint, but we don't know if that's going to continue to rise or if it's going to be something that stays the same. So that's something that we'll look at over the course of the year, especially when we talk to different vendors as far as what they've got. So, but that kind of gives us a total there. And if you look at the next page, you got your travel, food, travel expenses. We've tried to budget. Look at just projecting. We know that some teams it's going to cost us more to travel than other teams. And then if you add all that up, you're looking at around $150,000 to $160,000 to kind of budget it. But if you look at our projected revenue stuff, just off last year's projections with the gate revenue, it was around $95,000 to $100,000. So we know that is a potential for coming in. Maroon Devil Network was really good to us. That was another $12,000 we added to it. So that was, if you look at the gate thing, but then you add the network to it, your gate total as far as attendance viewing is well over $100,000. Banner sponsorship, low balling around 22, but right now we're currently about half of that. We've already got that through the summertime, so we feel like we can get to our goal with that. Sports season pass is something that we're looking at potential price increases because of cost of officials, and it wouldn't be anything astronomical. It'd be, $5 here, somewhere in there, that over the course of the year that would help us add up if you get people. Then obviously the concession stand, looking at the products, we think we could at least get $15,000 to $20,000, hopefully lowballing, to add into that funding as far as those two departments go. So,
Scotty, on concession stand, it says 15, and that's goal to increase.
Yeah.
So on most years, we were in the 40 grand on
yeah,
concession.
so
You're thinking we can get.
yeah, well, I think we can get higher than that. Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at the average of it, I think one, the cost of us getting the product has been significantly higher. Like
Right.
if you look at, for instance, if you look at a Snickers bar chart, I mean, if we can't make $1 off of it, we've had some issues with people saying, well, you're charging $2.50, $3, but when it got towards the end of the season last year, I know we talked about, man, we didn't have a choice as far as moving forward with our products. So we're trying to look at ways to maybe eliminate some of this cost that we've got with product services, but also find ways to help us increase the concession stand revenue a little bit. So there's three. Go ahead. Yes.
On gate revenues, Scotty, we're clipping along about $100 grand a year, and then 23, 24 dropped all the way down to 64, 65. And then stayed down 24, 25, or
It's down below it, yeah.
comparatively. What do you attribute that to? Because, that was the year, I know football's kind of our bell cow when it comes to gate revenue, and we went a deep playoff run that year.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the sports across the board that year, we had success. I mean, we had a lot of good things. I don't have the information as far as what that goes to for that particular year, why it was there. I don't know if the contributing factor would have been. I don't have the answer for you right now. I'm sorry. Anything off that, Les?
Well, do you think Maroon Devil Network is costing us on the gate revenue
I don't
side?
think so, no. I think it's a good addition for us moving forward. I mean, if you look at those numbers, that gets us over that. And I think with our advertising and things within the Maroon Devil Network, I think it has been helpful for us.
Yeah.
I don't mean to step in. I
Right.
I think with the 12 grand we were able to get this year, that was a huge help for us. That's big fun.
Yeah.
You think we should look at maybe raising that? I mean, you hate to always throw that out there, but as
I
far as,
thought the price this year was fair. I talked to a lot of people, like my mom and dad, for example.
Yeah.
They just kept it going through the summer. They said, that's $7, $8. I'm not even gonna cancel it. I'm just gonna keep it going.
there you go,
A lot of people said that. I'm afraid if we got too high,
right,
we'd start losing some potential subscribers.
okay.
And that's where a lot of this stuff too, is you don't wanna, you wanna increase to help us out, but you don't wanna decrease the amount of people
Right.
that are contributing to what we're trying to do. So there's kind of a fine line until we kind of get some better projection with it. Some new stuff, as far as some seasonal fundraising we've got, and if you look at the next page, I'll talk more about that. But there is some opportunities for us as a athletic department as a whole to do some collaborative things with some partners that do more, that reach more than just your businesses. It's more of a family and individual. It allows them to connect with people all over the U.S. as far as, hey, can you help us out? Can you give us $25 here? Our goal is to make it kind of competitive amongst the sports teams to, generate some competition as far as bringing in some money. So that's something that we're looking at doing, and hopefully, we'll have a better, we'll introduce a lot of this stuff in the next couple of weeks as school gets ready to start. But we've kind of got it ready to go on the back end. It's just a matter of getting it out there to the people. The benefit tournament thing is something we've talked about. I know that golf tournaments have been a big hit for a lot of things, but we try to, and a lot of this goes to some of the stuff I've just witnessed over the spring, whether it's having a flag football tournament, a co-ed softball, just little things here that, one, it gets the alumni back into it, may reach some other people, but that's easy for us. We think an easy $1,500 to $2,000 that we could potentially bring in and help in that area as well. And then the big one that I'm really excited about is the department store, so our athletic department team store stuff. We got some vendors that creating stuff for us. And we're able to get some kickbacks, introducing a different logo every month. Like we talked about today, volleyball just launched their store today as well. But it's, it gets the community involved with getting gear out there, plus it helps us from a financial standpoint too, so. But it's something that we can do once a month, change the logo, have no idea, and it reaches a lot of different people, so.
And that's like selling merchandise, Maroon Devil merchandise at Walgreens. We get a percentage back from that. I don't know if it's Walgreens or not. I'm just saying that's where I see it at.
There's some gray
all the time.
areas out there that we're trying to,
Okay, but that's the,
Create something, put it online.
It's- yeah.
With a QR code that
Uh-huh.
people can go to, and it'll take them automatically to that store
Yeah.
through that vendor.
yeah.
okay.
So,
They
yeah.
order it, be sent to their house, and then we get a kickback from it.
It's all drop ship. So once you go on there and you
Sort of like you do
say,
with the coaches now.
yeah, I mean, we just haven't,
Yeah.
we're just trying to introduce it to as many people as possible, for them to have the
Absolutely.
opportunity to get that.
So like you were saying, I got the volleyball one
Yeah.
earlier, so they'll order some of the stuff they need, but then parents. or
You'll have
whoever
free
will order,
access to order whatever you want in
and you
support of
get
that.
the fundraiser.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Is it
cool.
gonna trickle down the middle school level too?
Well, I'm not gonna say where that idea got started, but
He
It was his
commented.
idea.
We've already had one spat last week, so.
You mean the high school annex?
Yes, high school annex, that's right. Oh, brotherly love.
this is not my presentation.
But no, we think that can be a good thing for us, so. And whether it's, every little bit helps us along the way. You do it over a year, I think we'll be in good shape, so. And then if you look at the last part of it, that's just kind of the way that we've done, talked to some other schools about how they kind of track their spreadsheet stuff, and kind of gives you a base, like, so if you look at that last, there's obviously some pages that have nothing filled in, but over the course of the year, when you know what team's spending what, that can kind of give you an idea of like what it's costing us overall, so.
More exact.
Yeah. But we feel really good about it. All of our feedback from coaches are pretty positive. Of course, everybody's bringing a lot of ideas to the table, and it's just a matter of narrowing down which one's the best ones and which one's gonna be effective for us.
Question?
Anything else?
Everybody?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you.
And our intent is to come back quarterly.
And that's one thing we've talked about is, I know from our standpoint at the high school is meeting with Ms. Ginger, whether it's bi-weekly, I don't think once a month is enough to really cipher through, like, sometimes it's slower than other things, but, but just trying to get a better understanding of that moving forward.
Okay. One thing, Scott, I don't know if maybe we didn't have this previously, but you know how you've broken down the expenses, you've got it like admin fees and salaries and like, can we start doing that on a per sport basis? Not because I want to microanalyze the sport, but we just need to see which ones, you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
we're
that whole
making.
last section is
Yeah.
to try to see like, well, like for instance, we know it's gonna be about $1,100 to buy basketball this year. Now, $800 for volleyball, so we can kind of track some stuff that way and help ourselves out, I believe, so.
Okay, I think so.
And when you say that, Casey, are you talking about even to the supplements and,
No,
okay,
no.
okay.
No, I mean, to me, that stuff is more in the central office bucket
Yes.
of the breakdowns.
Okay.
I lied, I do have a question. Can you explain a little bit of the difference from the travel, transportation, that the high school versus what the central office covers? Like what goes in which bucket?
That would be a question.
That might be a Stephanie question.
So for the central office, the travel piece of it, it's usually like charter bus or activity bus. I'd say that on the school fund side, it's probably more of the meals.
Hotels.
Hotels?
Okay, but none of the actual transportation of the vehicles, right? I think we talked about this one other time.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
That's all it's central office.
that's all they, and then you guys get everything covered.
Cover everything else,
Okay. Okay. And what would be some of the things that are in that last one? That was just like other identified costs, like, you have any examples of what some of that would be?
And you talk about the first section?
The very last one.
Yeah,
under
you're talking about
expenditures.
in those-
Just like identify costs that are over 5,000.
You talking like this, those pages?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sorry, first section.
yeah, and most years it's super consistent, well, the COVID years is the only variable, so that's in general pretty consistent all the way.
So I think the question is, what kind of items would go into the other identified cost of more than $5,000? I don't have an answer for that.
I haven't heard at this time, no.
Stephanie, do you know how we calculated that? Do you remember?
That's one of those on that state survey, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
So, on the central office side, some of that could be like, athlete accident insurance.
Okay.
That would fall in that other, list here.
It jumps all over the place, like in 23, it was 14, then in 24, it was 76,000, then it jumps back down to 34,000, so it's,
I'm not sure on the school fund side what is in there.
well, we can go back and track through that
Have
again.
to look
So
for that.
It was more of a, try to get our projection stuff and
Yeah,
do
no, I
some of what we
got
have to do, then we can try to figure
I
out.
appreciate it.
Wouldn't surprise me if some of our championship ring cost is in there,
Yeah.
which has fluctuated quite a bit, and in the
Yeah.
past several years has been pretty high.
And it's roughly been, from what we saw projection wise, about 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that would,
that's
that
a,
would be about, yeah.
so 10, we got about 10.3 the other day, I think is what we got coming, so.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Scotty. Thank Jeff very much. Literacy update, Section E. I know that there have been some real concern about scores and where we are as far as a school system with that. And I told you that I would bring you information about that. And the one thing that we can't do at this point is to talk about the data that came out of the 24-25 school year as far as state level data, because that has not been released to us in an official capacity yet. However, I have given to you in a private capacity what we are projecting those numbers to be. So we have to be careful with that. The only 24-25 numbers that we can actually talk about are the early literacy numbers. We would call them DIBELS or M-class. And I just want to run through some of those things for you and the public very quickly, with an understanding that we're in the early phases of putting all of these numbers together and having the conversations like we did this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And we need to schedule a similar conversation like that with some of our teachers as well, because we need to get that perspective before we start narrowing in and making strategic action steps, which we will have in place at the August board meeting, okay? And while I'm on that, I would like for y'all to look at your calendars for July the 29th, because we will be at NCAT working on strategic planning with building level administration and also our learning coaches. And you are welcome to come and be part of that. If you wanted to come for the morning, you can. We'll be talking about a particular product that Leader and Me has put in place and looking at some of that. But the afternoon is where we really get into strategic planning for that, okay? So we'd love to have you there at NCAT starting probably about 11:30, and it'll run till about 4 that afternoon, okay? So let me share some numbers with you. What you're going to see, Katrina, let's flip through some of these slides. What you're going to see, this is a public dashboard from DPI, and these numbers come from that dashboard and from that public information. And you will see that the trend over 4 years there, from 21 to 24, for the whole district is pretty much flat. And what that means is we're not falling behind significantly, but we're not making a lot of headway either. And that's what you will see in some of the following slides as well. Specific numbers. Next slide, please. These are our proficiency data numbers that have come from previous years, not 24-25.
What years did they come from?
I think that it is a mix, okay, and you're looking at averages, okay? It's a four, okay?
Since COVID? Okay.
This chart is extremely important because this gets into our early literacy scoring. And what your goal is to have more blue and greens than you have anything else. And you'll see that there is a comparison of each year. This is probably end of year scoring. Swain County schools are the lower 4 bars. The upper 4 are state reports. And you'll see that we are a touch behind where the state is. We would like to see more of our students in blue and red and meeting more closely to what the state is averaging there at least. This reflects the fact that over the past 3 years in early literacy, we are seeing a decline in their DIBELS or their M-class scores. And I will tell you that I believe that this is the most concerning trend that we're seeing across the board right now. And it's where I believe that we need to put our greatest emphasis, although we shouldn't remove our emphasis from other places as well. EOG and EOC data from 4 years, notice the consistency in those. Remember the word I used? Stagnant, right? Not falling behind a lot, but not growing as well. But one of the flaws of the system that we have to overcome in our district is that the data we get for 3rd through 8th grade is often mixed together. We have to kind of pull that apart and disaggregate it. So what you're looking at there, I mean, there's a color mismatch. At the top, it says that our key is math is yellow, but it's kind of turquoise down below. Okay, that's just a flaw. But again, you saw the stagnant, and you see how the high school made some significant gains in their composite score. It's all right. And then lost those gains over the next couple of years and kind of ended up back where they were. Now, the composite score means that those are all of the scores that the state tracks mixed into one. I would hesitate to call it an average because average doesn't really work there, okay? But I will confess I don't know what that magic formula that is that they use. So you see, overall trend, stagnant, right? Pervasive issues, achievement concerns, pointing to systemic challenges. which is what we were talking about in our meeting earlier today. This is a core instruction issue, and it's not just in one place, it's across the board. Now, I have shared with you this presentation or these slides in a paper format, and I'm not going to sit here and read them to you because I don't want to take the time. But I would encourage you to look at those, and if anybody else wants to talk about these, I would be happy to. And if you have any questions or any thoughts about them, please feel free to share it right now. We'd be happy to answer you the very best that we can. But these are the three primary reasons that we see this as a core problem. We brought in a DPI specialist on MTSS to help us look at this, and she's coming back in 2 weeks, correct, Katrina? To take us into the next level, which is now what do we do with this, particularly as far as instruction is concerned, and setting some instructional parameters that we're going to have expectations for in the classroom. All right, but as far as DPI is concerned, they say that whenever you have a core problem, that's really where you need to make your focus. Not that you lose your emphasis on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions, but if it's core, you need to focus on core work. And it may mean sliding some of your interventions into your core 1 general instruction. Okay? Did that make sense to you? Let's move forward. Katrina, please. Now, whatever we do, we have to do it with fidelity. Fidelity means we've got to do it and do it well all the time and not just hit and miss. All right? So when we're looking at what are our solutions, fidelity is going to be critical in our implementation, and it can't just happen over 1 year. It has to be continued over multiple years. So if you look at the next slide, if you don't operate with fidelity, you're going to see if you operate with fidelity, you'll begin to see gains quickly. What we haven't seen are the gains that we're looking for, so what that means is we're probably hit and missing our implementation in different places, okay? We have to focus on this is what we're looking for, and this is how we're going to get there, and keep at it. If not, you're going to be all over the board, which is kind of what we're seeing. How do we move forward? So systematic problem solving. That's what we're doing right now. We're enhancing what we're doing in the core instruction and making sure that systematically we're checking ourselves over and over and over. Now, you, all of you except for Cody, who couldn't be here at the 4 o'clock meeting, you heard that in the conversation, didn't you, this afternoon? What's interesting is, to me, our administrators hadn't seen this. And that they were reflecting this already in their conversation because they know this is what we have to do. It just is good common sense. So you build on what you have and you address the issues on the right. I will tell you that what Tommy said a little while ago a little while ago in RL, you picked up on this is, so what are the 5 things, right? What are the 5 things that we need to do? And I would suggest that we not try to solve every single problem right now, because if you try to solve them all at the one time, you're not going to get anything done. Instead, we need to focus on what are the top 2 or 3 and focus on those. We don't know exactly what the top 2 or 3 are just yet. We will continue to look at data and continue to have conversations and continue to include you in the conversation as well. And set our goals for the next year and the year after that. And then we will pursue them with passion and with regular monitoring. And come back to you on a regular basis and say, this is what we said we're going to do, and this is what we're seeing right now. Okay? Any thoughts? As soon as we're able to release our current scores, we'll do that and have that conversation. Okay? Enough for today?
I think we're on the right track with what we did this evening.
Yes.
Mark, have you conferred with any of the surrounding schools to see how, where their heads are at on any of this stuff?
Yes. Well, we met in Haywood County and in Macon County last week. Haywood County has a tradition of very high scores. As a matter of fact, they were in the top, either the top 6 or top 7 position with their test scores, particularly in literacy. And we sat down with them for an extended conversation on last Tuesday morning, and have gleaned that we're using the right tools, but we need to be more specific in our implementation. And just the same things that we were talking about earlier this afternoon. Our intent is to have a call with Watauga County, who is also a top scorer, and we're going to travel to Yancey County, who is very, very much like us. Have very similar economic demographics, perhaps not ethnic and racial demographics, and they continually score high. They also use CKLA as their reading program. So does Macon County, and so did Haywood County, correct? So we're using a lot of the same tools, and then we'll come back and we'll say, this is what they're saying, and this is where we need to go. Okay? We are having the conversations. I have another meeting scheduled with a teacher this week, and we'll schedule 2 more teachers that I consider to be strong in these areas, and I'm asking them, so what is it that you think that we need to do, and where are our strengths and where are our weaknesses? And my primary question to them is this: when you walk into a classroom, what's a good literacy classroom look like? How do you know? And then those are the areas that we're really going to start focusing. Okay? Anything else? With that in mind, there's a quote in your, thank you, Katrina, very much. There's a quote for iReady Math. We've talked about math and math textbooks, RL, and where we are with that. Katrina has the opportunity to look at some different types of math texts, and we're going to be doing that. One of the things we have to be cautious of right now is the math standards are going to be are being revised and will be implemented in a couple of years. And before we plunge too deeply into a deep expense, we need to make sure that we're meeting those standards. Okay, but iReady Math is what we have been using. I don't even know what the number is right now, but we're bringing that to you for approval tonight for that contract. Katrina, do you want to add anything on that?
I think there's 2 parts to that contract. One is K-8 math, and that does include the math workbooks to go with it, as well as the online piece of it, with the diagnostic and the learn path. And then 4 through 8, the reading, the online reading piece of that. So it'll give the diagnostic and the learn path online too.
And something that goes along with that that I need to share with you. Last year, the middle school for 6 through 8 used Achieve 3000, and they have specifically asked that we shift from Achieve 3000 to iReady, and that is actually a cost savings for us, okay? Because they want the diagnostic capacity that iReady reading brings with it. And our 4th and 5th grade teachers are asking that we shift from what we have been using, which was a CKLA product called Boost, because it wasn't giving them the feedback on comprehension that they wanted. And they asked specifically that we go to iReady on that. And so we've dropped Boost in those, and we're going to iReady. We're also looking at another product that a lot of people are interested in, and we're going to use it on a pilot, I think it's pretty much free right now, basis called iXL, particularly in math, but there are several people who are saying that it brings a great diagnostic capacity for us. Now, one of the concerns is we don't want to diagnose and put people in front of screens so much that they aren't ever getting any instruction, okay? But we're looking at those, and we want to have the best product, the best tool in the teacher's hands in the classroom for them to use, okay? Any questions about any of that? Cody, I think that those are all of the action. I mean, those are all of the discussion items, unless there's anything I've missed.
I think we're good and ready to move to action.
All right, then I want to recommend that the Swain County School Board approve the consent agenda, including all the personnel and the minutes from the June 9th and June 26th, 2025 meetings.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
I want to recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the child nutrition bid as presented by Michelle for beverages.
Motion. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the iReady quote that we just spoke about,
I think that quote number is 60,000,
something
a
like
little
that.
over
yes.
60,000.
Is it
Yes.
both of them or just that one?
It's both of them, it's like
Both.
80.
It's
Yeah, 60 and
80,000.
60 and 20.
So it's about 80.
And then we're canceling that one,
We're
right?
canceling Achieve, and we're not going to be using Boost.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
The other item, the item D that I said may need to look at has to do with some property on Black Hill, two sections of property that are contiguous to the 13, 14 acres that are sitting up there. We've been given an offer of a price on that. I'm going to recommend to the Swain County School Board that we accept that offer, that we enter into a contract to purchase, and also that we send a resolution to the Swain County Commissioners to allow us to purchase that. The funding that we will be using for that will come out of lottery funding and will not cost the citizens of Swain County $1. Okay?
Motion.
And before we go into that, if I would, can we do that as the resolution
amended.
with the amended, corrected resolution
Thank
of the
you.
acreage?
Yes, there's an acreage piece that needs to be changed in that. Thank you.
And so
Yes.
Can you make
Motion.
another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion with the amendment.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
All right, I believe those are all of the action items for tonight.
And do we have a date for the next meeting?
April.
April.
Great.
There's a lot to get done between.
We're not going
Sign
to meet
me
until
up.
April.
I'm sorry, that was so loud.
You behave. August the 11th.
5 o'clock.
Yes. I will work to get teachers together before then, and we'll tell you when that's going to be, okay? Please seriously consider July the 29th afternoon.
Where did you say that would be?
North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teachers at Cullowhee,
Okay.
across the road from the university.
And it starts at what?
If you could be there at lunchtime, or you can come that morning starting at 8:30. Either one.
If I came, I think I'd have to come in the morning, but yeah.
Well, come in the morning.
Okay.
But you said the strategic part would be from 11:30 to 4.
Yes, sir. That's all I have.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. Further discussion? Show of hands? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, Joe. Better run up here and catch me before I get out of here.